Dawn in Louisiana, 1842. The air is dense, sticky. On the wet grass, two barefoot, bare-chested men measure each other in silence. Their swords tremble, nervous like a cat's tail on the hunt. One of them, Jose Pepe Llulla, is a living legend. He has fought in dozens of duels and has never known defeat. His fame precedes him from the Mississippi docks to the Creole salons. In an instant, the heart of one will stop beating, and the legend of the other will grow. Freeze that image. Ask yourself how a skinny boy from the Spanish island of Minorca, born in 1815, ended up here, breathing mist and death in the heart of New Orleans. Martial might, where warriors live forever. Lovers of history, and welcome back. Today we follow the steps of a man who turned fencing into his calling card, who managed a cemetery like just another business, and who kept the city in suspense with his feats for 50 years. A character that seemed pulled from an adventure novel. Stay with us, because by the end of this tale, you'll be whispering his name, as the Creoles once did. Half warning, half desire. Pepe Llulla's odyssey begins in Mahon, Minorca, in 1815, in a Spain that was witnessing the death of Napoleon's world. Raised in a Mediterranean that smelled of salt and olive trees, by the age of 14 he was already a sailor crossing the waters between Barcelona, Havana, and the mouth of the Mississippi. The sea toughened him, but it was New Orleans that seduced him. The city was an explosive cocktail, a boiling pot of cultures with gambling all night long, chicory coffee, and underground fencing halls where insults were paid for with blood and honor was everything. By 1834, Llulla traded ship rigging for the foil and the sword. He studied under a local master, Monsieur Lalouette, whom he soon surpassed in a friendly duel, later inheriting his academy on Exchange Alley, a street that by day was the financial center, and by night a training ground for duelists. In a public exhibition with wooden knives, the master tried to humiliate him with dishonest attacks. Pepe dodged, countered, and knocked him unconscious, breaking his ribs. The crowd understood what the master himself accepted, the superiority of his pupil. In antebellum New Orleans, duels were an everyday reality. Authorities tolerated them as a way for gentlemen to resolve disputes. It's estimated that in the 1830s, at least one duel took place every day. Llulla not only accepted these rules, but mastered them at will. He fought more than 20, perhaps 30 duels without a single defeat. Two of his opponents, a certain Saint Cyr and Ciriaco de la Cuesta, died by his blade. In both cases, juries ruled he had acted in self-defense. Other rivals, when the time came, withdrew citing sudden fevers or mysterious illnesses. The press devoured his feats. Llulla disarms his opponent in 45 seconds. In that humid city, it was barely enough time to break a sweat. On another occasion, while serving as a second, his protégé's rival was replaced by a fearsome German fencing master. Knowing his friend wouldn't survive, Llulla stepped in and dispatched the German with 2 precise thrusts, leaving him bleeding out on the ground. One night, 7 sailors stormed his tavern to avenge a comrade Llulla had killed that very morning in a brawl. Pepe grabbed an iron bar and within seconds left 5 in a coma. The other 2 fled in terror. Even surprise attacks ended badly. A Mexican ambushed him with a knife outside his tavern. Llulla snatched the weapon away with feline reflexes and killed him with his fists, proving he didn't need steel to command respect. By the mid-19th century, political tensions were palpable. Spain still controlled Cuba, and New Orleans was a nest of exiles and revolutionaries conspiring for the island's independence. In 1851, during anti-Spanish riots near the port, a mob attacked the Spanish consulate. Loyal to his homeland, Llulla stood at the door, with a sword in each hand and 2 pistols at his belt, defending the Spanish consul as the mob fell around him until he got him to safety. The response was immediate. Threats, insults in the press, and a mob of nearly 100 men with torches outside his house. Pepe came out in his robe and slippers, shotgun in hand. 2 shots were enough to drop the ringleaders. The rest dispersed in silence. The Cuban independence fighters didn't give up. In 1869, they sent 2 hitmen to ambush him during the funeral of a soldier Llulla had killed in a duel. The hunters became the hunted. Pepe chased them through the graves and gunned them down, leaving their bodies in the same cemetery. He even accepted a pistol duel against an Austrian ex-soldier, a veteran of the Mexican War. The Austrian fired early from behind and missed. Llulla turned and put a single bullet through his chest. Fencing lessons gave prestige, but they didn't pay all the bills. Pepe Llulla was a born entrepreneur. He promoted bullfights in Algiers across the river, ran a tavern on Dauphine Street, and traded cypress lumber. But his shrewdest business was the purchase of the St. Vincent de Paul Cemetery in 1857. Unlike other graveyards, his plots were open to anyone who could pay: French, Germans, Canarians, or freedmen. In a segregated city, his cemetery was a melting pot. Soon rumors spread that Llulla reserved a hidden section for duel victims. No proof was ever found, but the mystery was a fantastic sales pitch, and graves sold faster than during a yellow fever epidemic. The Civil War changed the rules of the game. With so many officers dying on the battlefield, formal duels lost their meaning. Llulla, then in his 50s, though he considered secession madness, trained young Confederates in saber fighting. After the Union's victory, the new military government strictly banned the code duello. Llulla's world was fading. Adapting to new times, he renamed his Exchange Alley Academy into a center of scientific fencing for health. But old instincts die hard. One afternoon in 1870, at the bustling French market, a Sicilian dock worker dared insult his lineage. Witnesses said the old master, with lightning speed, drew a hidden stiletto, pierced the man's sleeve, made a shallow cut on his arm, and forgave him. The Sicilian understood the message and took the next ship back to Europe. That was the last recorded echo of the age of duelists. Pepe Llulla died at his Bywater home on March 6, 1888, at 73 years old, of natural causes in his bed. He was never wounded in combat. He was buried in a modest tomb in the cemetery he once owned, with a Spanish shield weathered by time and the floods of Hurricane Katrina. Tour guides today swear that if you run your finger over the tombstone, you can feel the notches of his sword. They're probably just scratches from lawnmowers, but who cares about the truth when the legend is better? Myth always beats marble. Today, Pepe Llulla is the city's arrogant ghost, half entrepreneur, half bogeyman, a specter forged entirely of courage and steel. Did you enjoy the story? Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment. In a legendary duel, who would you bet on? From the rigging of a ship to the grip of a sword, from the gates of a cemetery to his own grave, José Pepe Llulla carved his name into the dense, humid air of Louisiana. Next time you stroll through the French Quarter and hear the tourist echo of clashing steel, remember that once those sounds were real, and the man who mastered them never truly died. He simply stepped into legend.